if you want to say hello and introduce yourself, we'll go around the room. So I'm Nigel. Independent brand consultant. You've obviously got an email from me, seen a social post from me or Paul, and I'm going to host today. And we've got Paul with me. Do you want to say hello to everyone, Paul? And we can go around the room and just say who you are and where you're from.
Yeah,
I'm from
hi
London.
everyone. I'm Paul. I did live in London. I'm now down in the southwest in Bath, and I am a sales consultant and make quiz funnels.
Exciting. You're going to tell us all about that shortly.
Yeah.
So if we just go around the room based on my screen. Hi, Joanne Stimpson.
Hi, hello. Hi, I'm Jo. I just started a business called The Flowerologist. We're a sales business mentoring platform for the floristry industry, as well as a website that sells flower bouquets. Thank you.
And I love the name Flowerologist. Flowerologist sounds very sort of you're like the people that know the most about flowers, which is great. So
My love
welcome.
of cocktails and flowers rolled into one is what it is.
Is that what it is?
If I'm being
Drinking and
honest.
flowers. Excellent. Well, welcome. And hi, Liz. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Say hello.
I'm Liz Drury. I'm based in North Lincolnshire and I'm a voiceover artist working from a home studio, which is the box that you can see behind me.
And I've been very impressed that you've fitted a studio into your room as well. I can barely fit my records in. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. Who else? We've got Brian. Hi, Brian.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I'm Brian. I'm probably a bit different to most of you. I'm here to understand what happens to a brand when it's been hacked. I run a cybersecurity consultancy.
Very good. Well, we'll see if we can do some brand hacking at some point. Welcome, Brian. Thank you. Me and Brian share some office space as well, so it's good to see you.
Yes. That's why you knows the wall behind me.
And hello, Charlotte.
Hello, I'm Charlotte Rooney. I am based in Southeast London. I'm a mindset and burnout coach. So I work with sort of early to mid-stage entrepreneurs to help them grow their business without just trading their time for money until it burns them out.
Sounds very worthwhile and probably what most people need a bit of support of. And I don't know, I know that Kieran and Alison Avery are here. If you want to say hello, if you're doing anything.
I can say hi. It's just like really early here in Portland and I'm getting my son out to school.
Oh, that's so, quite all right.
We're kind of like breakfast time, but I think we met through Allison Davis. So I just wanted to meet in. I'm in Portland, Oregon. I have a branding agency called Letter A.
Excellent. Great logo for Letter A. And Kieran Skillett. Yes. Hi, Kieran. Nice to see you. You're the geek, aren't you? He's listening along, but anyway. So just welcome everyone to Brand Lab. So I'm Nigel. I'm just going to do a quick introduction and then pass you on to Paul. So, Brand Lab. I kind of created this but nearly a year ago, and Alison, who's in the room, who also knows another Alison who couldn't make it today. I was doing some work with her on sales, and she suggested doing a regular monthly meeting where I sort of talk about branding, help people, answer questions, introduce new stuff to people. And I didn't do it for the last couple of months because, end of last month was the day after Boxing Day, so I kind of figured that people may not want to come and chat about branding on the Bank Holiday Tuesday. And the month before was actually the Wales-England World Cup, if you can remember that far back. And I think it was more that I thought that I might not really be able to focus on branding, knowing that the England team were going to be playing in about 20 minutes after it finished. So thank you very much for joining us today. And I have this kind of belief that sometimes branding can seem like it's really overcomplicated. So I just try and demystify the process. And I also know that brand owners have the answers, and there's people that I've worked with here on their brands. And I know that people have a lot of inner knowledge. My job is to kind of help bring that out of them and then help them develop and transform their brands. And actually creating that clarity for the audience is kind of what I'm really about. So just allowing Mona in. Welcome, Mona, at her startup, and she'll be here in a second. So welcome, Mona. Thank you for joining us. So I do a number of things, and I've worked in big brands in the past, famously rebranded Ford Motor Company about 20 years ago, set up my own agency, started doing branding, naming, identity design, and I still do that, for businesses like, retail, digital, all sorts of things, and also solo entrepreneurs. And for those that haven't joined me before, it's always good to start with what is a definition of a brand. And for me, a brand is all about the emotional connection that you get with an audience to make you believe that, you've made the right choice. Well, it doesn't really matter that there's Adidas and Nike. I buy Adidas. In fact, treated myself to a new pair only last week. It's my once a year purchase, a new pair of Adidas trainers. That's a little sad insight into my life. And I have a model. It's called the brand donut. And it's this kind of central kind of point to keep everything focused. So helping people understand about vision, position, offer, values, and mission, and the sticky jam core that kind of keeps everything together. And it kind of goes through this insight, story, and engagement. And I'm always talking about these different pieces. Branding is like a big complicated jigsaw, but actually there's lots and lots of different areas around, that you kind of need to understand. And I help people try and understand all parts of that jigsaw. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the identity, but also going to talk about something that's not even part of the jigsaw, which is sales. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about tone of voice, which is really important in verbal communication. Has everyone sort of had a little go on ChatGPT? Let me just stop the screen there. Has anyone tried ChatGPT yet? Have you been playing with that? Yeah. Any thoughts about it? Hi, Mona.
I think probably not for me.
It's not for you.
People know me that no, I won't write that well. So if I use ChatGPT, my connections, they will know it's not me.
Right, so they'll really be able to tell that it's not your writing style. So
Yeah,
you keep to your honest self, which I like. I like to hear. So that sounds great. And anyone else got any? Brian, have you sort of been using it along with all your other cyber stuff or anything?
Yeah, I've played around with it, but it's also apparently being used to code malware now as well.
Ah, right. So it's harvesting our data as we ask it questions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is kind of what everything is doing. Isn't everything doing that? I don't know.
Supposedly not.
Supposedly not. Yeah,
and that's all I say.
That's all you'll say. Okay, well that's great. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and show you some things. But I think for me the thing about it is I think there's some usefulness. But as Mona says, can it replicate your tone of voice? Possibly not. Not yet, anyway. At least. So we'll chat about that. But the main thing I want to do today is introduce you to Paul Green, who I worked with. I've known for a year or so now. And probably best to let him introduce himself. But I worked with him when he set up a business called Candidate Funnels last year. He asked me to help him with the visual identity. He's since evolved that into Client Funnels. So Paul, do you want to say hello and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you do it? Just going to allow Kelly in.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm Paul. So yeah, we'll go right back to the beginning with this because this is where it starts to get really complicated. So I'm actually a commercial airline pilot. That's where I that's always the point when everyone looks up from whatever they were doing. Every time I always notice whoever's not looking, it's the point they look up. So I was a commercial airline pilot. I lost my job during the pandemic because the airline I was working for collapsed, which was Flybe, which then came back from the death and then collapsed again this week. Tragically, and during the pandemic it was kind of really obvious that there were no jobs, there was nothing really to do, so I set up my own business. I tried a couple of different things in business initially and ended up going into sales. Sales is something I've always really enjoyed, but not kind of traditional picking up the phone, hammering people and trying to just purely get money out of people. For me, the thing that I absolutely love, and it comes back to my experience in the commercial cockpit, is data. And I think as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we do not use enough data when we're trying to figure out who our clients are, when we're trying to sell to clients, when we're trying to move our business forward. And actually, if we break down even the most simple data in our business, it can help you massively in having better conversations, in increasing your conversions, and just all around making you a better business owner. So I'm going to ask you all a question. I want you to be honest with me. And Joe, maybe you're not allowed to play this game because I know how you're going to answer this. If I told all of you you had to go and make £10,000 today, I know we're towards the end of the day, but let's say it's the morning, you've got to make £10,000 today. Put your hand up if you think you could do it.
I've got all day over here.
An additional £10,000 today.
By the end of the
sell
day.
my kidney.
Yeah.
So
In
you
one day, could you make an additional £10,000 today? Anybody?
Maybe to sell my kidney.
Sell
No.
your kidney. Brian could do it. Joe definitely could do it. I know Joe could do it. Get the hustling out. You'll be amazed how many people wouldn't be able to do it. How many people genuinely don't know where that money's going to come from, where they're going to approach that way of figuring stuff out in their business. Whereas the vast majority of businesses, and I've been researching this quite a lot recently, the vast majority of businesses, so this is businesses that are already established, you're talking 2 or 3 years in, have at least £200,000 sat on the table that they are not cleaning up. Because businesses do not know how to get hold of that money. And the easiest way to do it is by examining data. So what we do as a business is we've taken the concept of using quiz funnels, using a quiz in your business, and actually turning it into a sales tool. So going away from the idea of what kind of Disney princess are you, what vegetable are you, what's your favorite film, all that kind of nonsense that people associate with quizzes, and actually getting down into something that can be used as a way to pre-qualify clients and to start having really intelligent conversations. So what we do as businesses, we collect data on our clients, or automatically. Every single one of you will collect data on your clients. Most people will collect name and email address. If you're a bricks and mortar business, you probably collect addresses, and some of you may collect phone numbers. But imagine what would happen if you started to collect information about your clients' dreams, their hopes, their aspirations, what they want from life, where they're going, where they're struggling, where they need help, where they need support. You can collect up to 20 or 30 data points on your clients that are going to mean that when you actually speak to them, you are actually speaking to them. You're not guessing what they have issues with. You're not going through, most people in business do their ideal client avatar. They start off with their ideal client and figuring out what this person wants. Imagine if that's a real person. Imagine if that's an actual client avatar, because you talk to them and you understand them, but you do it in an engaging way. And that's the whole concept of what we do in our business. We facilitate other businesses to have more intelligent conversations by collecting the right kind of data on their clients. And I'm going to show you, just as an example, and I'll, as soon as I've shown you this, I'm going to show you how you can action this in your businesses today. Nigel, can I share my screen, please? Thanks. So I'm just going to show you, this is a client we've been working with. So we did a survey for them. We rolled a quiz out into their business. And what we did is we surveyed their current clients. So when I said to you right at the beginning about the amount of money that people have on the table, we surveyed their clients. And basically what you can see in front of you is all these numbers are people who are willing to work with this company. So we've identified them, we've pre-qualified them, and we asked them the question, how much money would you be willing to invest in working with us? Like outright, we asked that question. We qualified them. We then asked how much they were willing to invest. And these are the numbers. 22 people said £10,000 plus, all the way down to 246 people said under £100. There is, in this pipeline, and this is one business, what they have on the table, £880,000 sat on the table in their business that they have not tapped into, because they're not asking the questions. They are funneling people into their business. They're collecting an email address. They're sticking them on a mailing list. And they're leaving all of this potential money on the table. And I can tell you, since we created this for them, they've closed out £200,000 worth of sales additional, and we're now working on them kind of taking the next steps. So it's kind of all right me showing you that, but let's make it actionable, shall we? So in 3 minutes, I'm going to tell you how you can make £10,000 in your business today, for any of you who wants to do it. So first thing you need to do, you need to have something in your business that you can give away. You've got to have something that you can give away to your clients that's really that's really going to draw them in. So a book, a webinar, anything, a checklist, a cheat sheet, any kind of, the standard stuff that we give away. But what I want you to do is, before you give them that item, before you give them that thing, you're going to put them through a Google form. And we're going to keep this real basic, real simple, so this works. Before you send them the download, they've got to fill in the Google form and they've got to complete it. And in that Google form, I want you to ask them 5 questions. One of the questions has to be, how much money are you willing to invest in solving X problem? So figure out what their problem is. How much are they willing to invest? Now, you phrase this however you want, and this is why it's quite interesting that Nigel's going to talk about voice, because it's got to be your voice. You can't be formal if they're not formal clients. If they are formal clients, you can be formal. But things like, you can ask them, how much are you willing to invest in your marketing strategy? How much are you willing to invest in your branding? How much have you previously invested in your branding? And it just allows you to segment them and see who these people are. And then I want you to think of 4 other questions that are really valuable to you, that you need to know whether you can work with those people. So questions like, do you prefer to work one-to-one or part of a group program? Are you willing to dedicate 30 minutes a day to solving this problem? Have you ever invested in anything like this before? Those kind of questions. 5 really simple questions. And then, final step in this process, pick up the phone and call the people who have money to invest, who are willing to have the problem solved. And it is that simple. Ask the questions and then have informed conversations based on the questions that you've asked them. Easy, right? Easy. £10,000. £10,000 on the table today. I'm sure she won't mind me saying, but we did this for Joe last month, didn't we, Joe? You did a webinar and we set up a funnel for you. And I think, was it out of 36 people who signed up, you had 28 who said they wanted to talk to you? So 36 people, give them a freebie, and 28 of them wanted to have a call about joining Joe's program. You'd be amazed how many people say yes when you say, do you want to talk to me? We sort of assume that we just passively put offers out there, passively give people information and they'll come to us. But when you actually go to people and say, do you want this? The number of people that say yes will blow your mind. So that's it. Simple sales in a nutshell.
It's as easy as that. And
Easy as 1, 2, 3.
And what's the thing that you give away then? What's the thing that you give away? Obviously.
So because we use Score App with ours, we give away it's a PDF report. So it's a 20-page insight report. And it's because of the way we build our funnels, which are the more advanced funnels, it's completely tailored and configured to the person who's filling it in.
And I guess they answer more than 5 questions.
So on the main funnel for us, it's 20, but we do webinars and things. So we did Helen's Mitch Miller webinar recently. So the webinar funnel is the best way to do this, which I know we said we were going to talk about, and then I skipped over it. But it's the thing we just created for Joe. But yeah, if you have a real simple 30 to 40-minute webinar, and you stick a quiz in front of it to pre-qualify people, and then nurture them the other end of it, and then speak to them based on what you're telling them. It's also great for creating the webinar as well, because people are telling you what their problems are on the way in, and then you can use that to inform the content that you create. You're speaking to the people in the room, really.
Excellent. And so with your sort of journey from sort of pilot into salesperson, is there anything you would now it's kind of interesting that you sort of say fly B of failed again, which is very sad. And Brian's mentioned that he used to work with Flybe, he used to be a client of his. What are the things that they could learn from what you're doing now, do you think, to help them? Because they clearly keep getting things wrong.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think for me, and obviously it's I guess behind the scenes thing, but it's looking at the information that's in front of you. So one of the things I always say to clients is, you know, it doesn't quite translate fully to business, but, you know, as a pilot, when you're sat on the end of the runway and you're about to go, and you're literally about to go full throttle, you really have to decide to go. You know, we have a saying in aviation, every takeoff is optional, every landing is mandatory. Like once you're up, that's it, you're up. You're not coming back down. You know, you've got to come back down in some way. So you can always say no when you're on the ground. And people tend to sometimes rush into things or make ill-informed decisions where if they would have just taken a couple more minutes and just really looked at what was going on, they maybe wouldn't have put themselves in such a sticky situation. And I think there was a real rush to get the new Flybe off the ground. And I think anybody looking from the outside could see that it wasn't going to work. I mean, they offered me my job back with a salary a third of what it was, and they wanted me to move to Belfast. You know, overnight, you're like, something's not right here. Clearly, this isn't right. And in the space of 9 months that they've been up, they've emailed me 6 times to ask me to come back with the exact same job offer every single time. You know, it's really clear they don't have staff. They're not paying.
Is it getting lower and lower and further away from where you live each time?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. How far are you willing to travel?
How far?
I mean, you know, did they do the right amount of research? Possibly not. Did they know where the industry actually was before they launched? Possibly not.
So with your approach of, you know, basically as I follow it, give something away in exchange for data, which is what kind of most people say, you're actually saying ask more questions. Because I think when I set up my email list, I was advised to ask as few questions as possible because of resistance that people have. So mine, I think you just answer name and email address. What you're saying is build something in. Is it after they've been added to your email list, do you think, or is it part of that process?
There's 2 ways to look at it, and you can kind of take it whichever way you want. So we collect the data straight away. So we collect the data because I think sales is changing. The days of just collecting people on a mailing list and nurturing them, for me, I think are disappearing because we're so used to it. You know, I wake up on a morning and I look at my phone and I've got about 40 emails from mailing lists, and I just go through and go delete, 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 delete.
Thanks.
Because people just willy-nilly sign up. Yeah, not yours, obviously. But, you know, people just willy-nilly now just sign up for stuff because they want the free thing, and there's no real way of getting into their hands and really talking to them. And I still think the power in sales is in picking up the phone and having a genuine conversation with somebody. But I think you can really waste your time as well on speaking to people that are never going to buy from you or are not interested in working with you. So where the process started for us was, you know, I started working with Helen. So Helen Tudor, for any of you don't know, I came into her business to work with her on her sales, and she has 20,000 people on her mailing list. And on average, 5% of those people have bought from her. And we were like, we need to figure out why that other 95% have never bought. And all I was being told was, yeah, but that's normal. You know, 5%, that's standard. And I'm the person who's like, but why is that standard? You know, let's tap into that and figure that out. And I spent like 3 months calling all these people. We put sales teams in, we were just blitzing through people after people after people. And we thought, you know, there's got to be an easier way of finding out, like splitting the people off, really. Who are the people that are ready, willing, and able now to be helped today? And it doesn't always have to be from a financial point of view, but who can we help now that needs help, that is ready to take the help? And this just for us was the only real way to do it. So survey them when they come in, and we survey our audience regularly anyway, like every 3 months, just to see what's changed, see where people are, and then we can provide the best support going forward. And I think people respect that and understand that that's how it's working.
Awesome.
Long-winded response to your question.
It's very no, it's great. It's great. I mean, it's very insightful. I mean, people that have worked with me, I always sort of say, trying to get some insight into your customers or people, your cheerleaders, is a really important part of the process. It's still quite hard to get that insight, and it's people do have their job to get on with rather than helping you sometimes. So, has anyone got any questions for Paul? And then we're going to share some of the work that we did together. So I saw Joanne's hand pop up. Hi, Joanne.
I was just going to comment off the back of what Paul said about mine is mine to get that level of result from a business that at that time didn't exist, wasn't trading, didn't have and doesn't have anything live until tomorrow. If you've got an existing business and you've got this mailing list, then oh my God, am I very jealous of what you've actually got sitting on the table. And it is a gold mine, exactly as Paul says, that if you haven't tapped into it, if I can get that level of connection from a standing start, not being known in the industry, then it's absolutely amazing what it can do.
Fantastic. And obviously you're doing those calls, and again, I guess you're not doing 2-hour long calls or 15-minute calls, is it? Short calls.
Yeah. I did in the initial follow-up. My background is 25 years in sales, so follow-up is number one thing. And they kind of just got, well, when you've got something, so tomorrow, once everything's going, that list of 28 is the number one thing for me to go back, send the links, resend the emails, and then pull people through to sign up from there.
Excellent. So getting really focused. Mona, you had a question?
It's not actually a question, it's a feedback. Thanks, Paul. I think you are spot on. Yeah, thanks for the tips, very useful, because I met a lot of sales or business coaches at events. A lot of them are saying you got to ask the right questions to get clients. But the thing is, like, whether they have money or not, are they willing to spend on your services? Are you talking to the right group of people? So data is very important. You need to find out who have money and who are willing to spend on you to start that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a call with a client today who filled in one of our scorecards, and I literally went on the call and I said to him, right, I'm not going to waste your time. I've seen from the scorecard, you've already got this thing in place, you've got this thing in place, you've got this thing in place, this thing's working. So unless any of that's changed, I'm going to talk to you about this one little thing that you've said isn't quite working, and let's talk about how we can fix that. So there's no messing around on the call. There's no 10 minutes getting to know the person or, ice breaking, or just cut the nonsense. You are here because you want some help from me with something, and I can see like that exactly what you need help with. So let's get down to it and let's fix your problem.
Yes.
Excellent.
Thanks.
And Paul, will you be sharing something for everyone so that they can fill in a scorecard or something, or
let me
send a
you
follow-up link or
the scorecard?
Yeah, you'll send the scorecard so that people can see what it does, how simple it is to implement one, and how else do you help people at the moment? What else are you doing to, there's people that have only got £100 or a couple of £100 as opposed to, anyone's got £10,000, I'm sure Paul will stay on the call afterwards, but for the
I'll give you my address.
Give you an address and he'll fly over. But what are the ways that you can support people? All right, you put
so that's our quiz. So that is our main client funnels quiz that I've been working on today. The PDF report in that at the moment is still version 1, and version 2 will be uploaded in the next couple of days. But yeah, so we have this 3 ways of working with us, really. We do a done for you, which is the kind of premium. We have our Client Funnels Academy, which teaches you the whole funnel beginning to end. And we have a £150 Client Funnels webinar program, which teaches you the webinar strategy that we've worked with Joe. So literally beginning to end, it's got all the templates, all the emails that you need to send out. It's a full walkthrough. So if you're not tech savvy at all, it's a look over my shoulder while I build one and you follow along.
And how long does that take to watch and be part of?
So I say you can do it within a day. You can have it up and running within a day. And then we advise that you promote your webinar for 2 weeks. and then you run it. So within, there it is, within 4 weeks, you could have made a massive
Yeah, a massive,
ROI
a
on it.
massive difference. Awesome. Well, thanks, Paul. I mean, obviously, I'm going to sort of share some stuff that we did. Anyone's got any questions for Paul, just raise your hand physically, because I can see everyone in the room here, and we'll carry on. But I just want to. Oh, Brian's got a question. He was waving. Hi, Brian.
Not actually a question. It was just you said about Flybe earlier on, and from a systems point of view, they just didn't. The original Flybe just didn't recognise the value of the data that they had. It was multiple copies in multiple systems, and they couldn't find anything, and that's one of the reasons why they failed.
Yeah, I mean, it's the aviation industry in general. I worked on the ground
Oh, I know.
airways for a long time, and I was there when BA changed the system over, when they were like, we don't need 3 systems with backups. We need 1 mega system that's going to do everything. And someone kicked a plug, and then Terminal 5 collapsed. Like when they had, like, I don't know how many of you will know the behind the scenes, but many of you heard about the baggage problems at T5 when BA were losing bags for a whole week. It was because somebody tripped over a plug. Like, that's how ridiculous it was. Someone tripped over a plug and kicked the server out, and the whole system couldn't deal with it. It was, yeah, but that's aviation for you.
That's aviation.
Yeah,
excellent,
indeed.
So let me just. I think I have to reclaim the host now. How do I do that? Do you give me back the host? I can't even host my own thing now.
So just kick you out instead.
Kick me out instead, and then that'd be really kind if you could. And right. So obviously, you know, when I met Paul, we were chatting about stuff, and also they were starting this as a recruitment funnels thing actually back in the day, and it kind of quickly turned into actually being sales and sort of became from candidate funnels to client funnels. But just thought I'd share, you know, when I started working with Paul and Helen on this, I think Helen's brief to me was, can you just create me something that, you know, one of those things? And it was kind of about as detailed, something that kind of makes people understand what it is that we're trying to do. And at the time it was taking for recruitment process. So anyone who's worked with me, the first thing I always ask is, what's your favorite band? Which I think kind of puzzled particularly Helen at the time. Why am I talking about the Verve? But when I work with people, I'm always trying to get into what they like and what the things that they love. So talking then about their vision, audience, and all the expected things. Kind of for this one, I was really interested in thinking about some like when you think about the audience for the recruitment things, you know, all this vitriolic, maverick, competitive, controversial people that are out there, and how we could use those things that people dislike into things that we like. So went through the whole process about the offer and the core idea, and eventually kind of came down to like thinking about the style. And I think this is interesting when we talk about tone of voice, is this kind of having attitude, being exciting, confident, authoritative, and human, but not aggressive, chaotic, arrogant. And I think it's quite interesting with all the AI stuff about, you know, this whole thing here that I'm really big fan of, as people know, is that about the human intelligence versus the artificial intelligence. And I did this as part of the insight for the creative stuff. And I think that's when then Paul went, oh, I love whiteboards. And it was like kind of like one of those moments. And I'd sort of thought that might be a thing, but it became actually the thing that then propelled the visual identity, so that actually it kind of rooted it in being clever but being human at the same time. So I literally, I mean, I've still got the post-it note on my wall. I should send you this sometime actually. That's £10,000 if you want to buy it off me. That's my money made today. But I just sort of sketched these ideas. I was originally thinking of copyright symbols, and then I sort of just turned it round and created this sort of smiley face. And this sort of dehumanizing or humanizing technology was kind of a thing that I've always been a bit of a fan of. Lent into the whiteboard, so looked more at the kind of specific colors, hand-drawn fonts. What's the application that you used to do all this? SketchWow, that was it. So Paul kind of used all these things, and literally I was doing saying, these are the fonts, these are the colors that you should use, and this is how it should all come together. Gave him some very basic guidelines, and you kind of pretty much go off and do all your own stuff now. Is that, am I right in thinking that, Paul? how are you finding sort of implementing it now as client funnels? As a
Yeah, I love
brand?
it.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, you can see it through the scorecard. I've definitely toned it down from
Yeah.
originally when I was like, oh, Nigel's giving me these 5 things. Let's put all of it on one page.
Yeah. It was definitely one of the things when we first met. You went, this is really exciting. And I did notice that you just wanted to use everything
All of
at the
it.
same time.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this is it's the confidence to pare things back and just use the sort of the very basic stuff and actually then start to bring that in, because you know you're going to produce a lot of different things. If you throw the kitchen sink at everything, then you know it becomes a bit problematic over time. So I really enjoyed working on that, and it was interesting. You say it transitioned. Can you now do any funnel as long as it starts with C? You'll just car funnels,
much.
coach funnels, pretty much.
Yeah, we should start thinking about it, shouldn't we? Coffee funnels.
Coffee funnels, yeah. Any funnel
Like
as long as it's C. But I very much enjoyed the branding. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the sort of tone of voice stuff, really. And again, we sort of said at the start, you know, obviously since I last did a brand lab, but anyway, it was before Christmas. Everyone started getting a bit obsessed with chat GTP, and I think it is quite an interesting sort of tool. So I've been using it. Well, actually, me and my mate in the pub make up stories about people in the pub. Just give it a few cues of who's in the pub, and then say write a 3-act play in the style of a musical about Nigel and Jay on a DJ night, and it's just very entertaining. Our best one was asking it to write something in the style of the Chuckle Brothers. But anyway, so I was thinking about that. So I asked ChatGTP to sort of say, you know, tell me what Brand Lab's all about. So what is Brand Lab? I just asked that question, and it came back with this response: Brand Labs strive to help businesses create a strong connection and relationship with their customers through consistent, compelling branding that resonates with their values and mission. Now, it's kind of like it's saying what I would probably say about branding, but not quite in the way that I would say it, if I'm being totally honest. But not surprisingly, because it's actually trying to answer the question of what is a brand rather than what is a brand lab. It's not even recognized the lab. If I'd have put laboratory in there, it might have recognized it. So you can straight away see the limitations. So I sort of said, well, okay, well, write it in a funnier tone of voice. So, you know, the main difference it put here, it says it'll make Romeo and Juliet jealous and the relationship with their customers through branding that's so cool it will have everyone asking for their autograph. And again, it's just sort of tried to find something funny. But I think where it's useful for people that are writing and struggling is that even though that I couldn't put that out there, and that, because you can tell it's not me, but actually all of a sudden Romeo and Juliet and love and all that sort of things, it's what writing about branding is a trigger for an idea or a prompt that you could start to develop. Anyway, I thought that was too funny. So I thought people know that I quite like bands like New Order and Joy Division, but I said, how about a sad tone of voice? And I think it was interesting because again, this is the worst one, because it sort of goes into fragile relationships and honest and thoughtful and distant and disconnected. But again, what's interesting when you think about branding and what you're trying to write from a content point of view is this actually is the opposite of what we want people to feel about brands. And so that can trigger some ideas for what you might write to spin it on its head. So that's kind of you can get some value out of it. Oh, child's tone of voice. This was entertaining. It'll make their friends jealous and their relationships with their customers. That's so cool. It'll make them the coolest kid in school with fun, bright branding that really shows off who they are and what they stand for. Now, again, it's not how I'd write, but it might actually connect with some of the people in the audience who actually do want something that's more fun and frivolous and stuff. And then finally, I said, rewrite it as a poem. Brand Labs are here to aid businesses in connecting and staying made through consistent, compelling branding that resonates with every mission standing. Total nonsense, but quite entertaining. And I think, you know, again, with all these things, it doesn't really know what you're actually trying to say. And so the more that you can say things to it, the better it's going to get. So one of the things that I teach a lot, and Kay, who's here, thank you for joining us, has been through my Transform Your Brand course, is around tone of voice. And I'd written this bit of the course maybe at the start of this year as a sort of counter to help people with using the AI and stuff like that. And it's all about helping you to define your tone of voice. So I'm going to do this with Paul. He's not been through this, and I'm just going to ask the question, Paul. How do you think you write? What is your tone of voice when you write? How would you answer that question?
I think it's very relaxed.
Relaxed.
Yeah, but I try to be informative without kind of mixing
Informative.
the jargon really too much.
Yeah, less jargon. So if I was to say to you, you know, and the thing for me is this whole thing is that we do need to have a bit of artificialness into it. So partially artificial, but mostly human, because you do need to be quite functional in some of the information you give to people. You've got to give them clear, concise information, as well as really engaging headlines and copy. So I sort of talk about this as well, in that you've got to sort of find that right ground at the right time, the message that you're trying to send, you know, along their customer journey. But if I was just to say to you, if you look at this scale then, Paul, how would you rate yourself in writing between functional, being one, really functional, mostly human, and really emotional? What sort of score would you give yourself? You can't use a score app, you just got to say it as a human.
Yeah, here we go. Is this a scorecard? I think I'd be somewhere between 4 and 5.
So you'd be 4 and 5. So you'd be quite on the highly emotional kind of scale. So if I asked you a different question, at the left-hand end, we've got the matter of fact, respectful, formal, serious, all really functional things. Right-hand end, emotional stuff, enthusiastic, irreverent, casual, fun. You can pick one from the blue and one from the pink. Sound like it's probably
I would say I am casual and probably matter of fact, actually.
Matter of fact. And so already you've got a little bit more in-depth knowledge of what your tone of voice might be. The best thing to do is to start thinking about it in, you've got like these 4 lines now, and you can pick one word from each line in the white boxes. So one line that's either direct, clear, calm, warm, or passionate. What word resonates with you the most?
Probably clear.
Clear. And then the next line?
Open.
Open.
And then I'd say conversational.
Conversational.
And either witty or smart.
Witty or smart. So somewhere in between.
And
so what I would say in terms of you know, your overall tone of voice is that I tend to want to do pick the highest scoring white box, and that's probably your pink trait. The lowest scoring is probably your blue box. So you said clear, which is matter of fact, actually. So you're correct in that. And you also said conversational, which is sort of the casual. So your tone of voice is casual when it's been really emotional, and matter of fact when it's been really functional, but you're open, conversational, smart, and clear. Now you've got a much more in-depth tone of voice that you can actually share with people and put into your chat GTP, and actually give people. The point to remember is that there are times when you're going to have to be just clear and matter of fact, but there's going to also be times when you need to be just more casual and conversational, and a little bit of mix in between. You can't be everything all the time. Does that surprise you when you sort of see that? And do you think that will help you, Paul, going forward to know what you should be writing like now?
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't surprise me. I think I'm quite clear on how I write, I think, my style. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to have it kind of laid out in front of you like that.
Excellent. Anyone? And also you got an overall score of 13 on that, which does put you actually just lower than you normally set. You said you were between 4 and 5. You're actually between 3 and 4, because of, which I think is more normal. And what I say to people, if you'd have scored, basically picked all these 5 and you'd scored 20, you're going to be too emotional. If you pick a really low score, like closer to 5 or 6, then you're going to be too dry all the time. The other point with this is to try and avoid the very extreme edges of that. So if you take matter of fact to the extreme, it becomes cold, or if you take formal, it becomes really boring and dry and stuff like that. And you know, at the same time, some brands do use, you know, they do use crudeness and vulgarity to kind of make them stand out, but it's probably too edgy for most people to be able to work with. So before I move on to the final bit, has anyone got any questions about that or anything else that we've talked about today? Obviously, that's really familiar with Kate. Kay actually sort of went through this exercise with me, and obviously came out all smiling and happy at the end of that process. But anyone got any questions about tone of voice and how you might be able to kind of give your? I mean, if you're using external copywriters, the first question they're going to say is, "What is your tone of voice?" Yeah, and you go, "I'm relaxed and informative," and that's good, but they need a little bit more than that. Any questions about tone of voice? Doesn't sound like those. Excellent. So for those that have been before, I always try and leave with a record. And this week, and actually it just turned up as we were sat there, I picked this New Order, one of my favourite bands, and they've recently re-released one of my favourite albums of theirs called Low Life, and it's really interesting. So this is the Low Life, and it's a box set. And it's like one of these things that is aimed at middle-aged men that just sort of sells them stuff that we've already got. I've got multiple copies of this album up here. You know, I've got two copies up there. This is the original pressing, and it's like in a very nicely designed paper tracing paper sleeve. It's a great album, really good. And this is kind of packaged with all these extra CDs and DVDs, things that I will never listen to or watch, but I still buy it. And I think it's just one of those things about branding and bands that obviously I like bands as much as brands, is that when you can create a brand that people just will buy it for the sake of it, it's really kind of, you know, it's a very kind of exciting space to get in. And I just sort of, you know, actually, I just suddenly made me think really. So, you know, if I'm sort of so dedicated to, you know, buying New Order, I've got like 120 New Order records or something like that. You know, one of the things is I've just noticed that there's these 12-inch singles. So Perfect Kiss, one of my favorite singles. There's a special version there, which is on a mirrored sleeve with a clear vinyl. Very exciting. Can't wait to try that out. One of my favorite songs. But I suddenly thought, well, how would New Order describe BrandLab? So I asked ChatGPT, and actually I think this is a good example, because I think New Order are kind of, they were, Bernard Sumner is a terrible lyricist, really. And he is sort of mostly artificial, really. So Brand Labs, they strive to aid the companies who want customers made to create a connection with the heart, though consistent branding that they start to make their vision real. They resonate with what they feel, with a mission strong and true. Brand Labs have their part to do. And it is actually quite accurate. I know that Nick Cave got really annoyed when someone said write a song in the style of Nick Cave, but it is in the style of Bernard Sumner, because it's just so dry and boring, and that's how he writes all his lyrics. So I had some fun doing that as well. So there you go. Have some fun with ChatGTP rather than helping it to write all your content. It probably won't do a great job. So thank you very much for coming to Brand Lab. If you've got any questions, shout out. Next one's going to be the 28th, so 4 weeks time. So don't think anything else is happening majorly significant. If you want to ask questions, send in questions. I'll answer them live in the event as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul. Paul, can we have a chat at the end as well? That would be awesome. Thanks, everyone. Good to see you. And there'll be a video coming around of this week's
Lovely.
event.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.